Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator. In this video, we have a little bit of good news here. This right here says that the Klamath River flows free after the last dams come down, leaving land to tribes in Salmon. So this was September 2nd, 2024. Today's the 5th. Right here on American Rivers, the dam removal on the Klamath, that's how I'm saying it, river. They say that we are about to witness healing on a major scale. Dam removal is the best way to bring a river back to life. The Klamath is significant not only because it is the biggest dam removal and river restoration in history, but because it shows that we can right historic wrongs and make big, bold dreams a reality for our rivers and communities. And that is from the director of American Rivers. So here's these dams they're not so small. Now, when they show that this dam was blown up, it only blows up right here in this section, but the water does come running out. So the tribes are very happy here. They've been fighting this for decades now. They say the salmon can now move freely along the river and its tributaries for the first time in over a century. This was September 3rd, 2024. And here's some of the tribal people out protesting for the dam. And they say the last of 4 dams on the Klamath River on the border between California and Oregon was demolished last week, signaling the completion of the nation's largest ever dam removal project. The removal of the 4 hydroelectric dams, and they name them, allow the region's iconic salmon population to swim freely along the Klamath River and its tributaries, which the species have not been able to do for over a century since the dams were built. And they say that the project is hailed as a victory for local tribal nations, such as the Yurok, who have been fighting for the dam's removal for decades. Although the dams were built to produce hydroelectric power, they only contributed 2% or less to the Pacific Corp's energy supply. Mark Branson, Chief Executive Officer of the Klamath River Renewal Corporation, says the corporation will now engage in further restoration work that includes planting of almost 16 billion native plant seeds in the Klamath Basin. And this BBC article says between 2018 and 21, seed collection crews, many of whom are tribal elders, were hired to harvest native seeds by hand in preparation for the dam removal. They collected 98 species and around 2,000 pounds of seed. The seeds were then dispatched to specialized nurseries, which propagated them in mass and sent the seedlings to storage facilities where they were kept until the time came for them to be planted. A total of 18 billion native seeds were propagated. Each species was selected for a purpose: to retain sediment, to prepare the soil for other plants, for cultural uses, or to be a food source. And yeah, there's a few of the plants that they are bringing back. They say it was an extremely complicated process. Everything we introduced had to be genetically appropriate, sourced from nearby watersheds. It's quite a process to work out what seeds you need, how many seeds you need, and how long you need to grow them to get the seeds you want. So this has been a very big process. It's not just the river restoration, taking down the dams, but a lot more is going into this. They're trying to restore their tribal lands out there. Right here, it says that in 2002, an estimated 70,000 salmon perished in the historic fish kill brought on by toxic algae washed down the river from the reservoirs that bred the deadly stuff. After that, tribes' determination to heal the river and their people coalesced. Over the following 20 years, Undam the Klamath campaign was formed to remove the dams and restore salmon. The tribe's environmentalists and their allies angrily filled legislative chambers, corporate headquarters, and agency offices to demand the dams be removed. And the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission issued the final approval for the removal of the lower 4 Klamath River dams in 2023, and the removal started shortly thereafter. 2 other dams upriver from the last 4 that were removed have fish ladders installed. So even though the dams are still there, the salmon can still run upriver using these fish ladders. And it says the removal of the final coffer dams mean that the salmon and other migratory fish now have an unimpeded aquatic highway to the upper Klamath Lake and the Sprague and Williamson's rivers. And then, what's next? Well, the final deconstruction, including some remaining riverside infrastructure, is slated to be completed by the end of September, and Resource Environmental Solutions project to restore lands and tributary creek beds once covered under often algae-infested waters will continue for several years to further the work of healing the river from surgery to unclog its channels and recreate long dormant salmon reeds nursery nests. And this BBC article says the Klamath was once the 3rd largest salmon-producing river on the U.S. West Coast before the construction of the dams blocked fish from entering almost 400 miles of critical river habitat for almost 100 years. And then the populations of the fish, the fall Chinook salmon plummeted by more than 90%, and the spring Chinook by 98%. Steelhead trout, ho-ho salmon, and Pacific lamprey numbers also saw drastic declines, and the Klamath tribes in the upper river basin have been without their salmon fishery for a century, since the completion of the first dam in 1922. The situation became so bad that York tribe, who are also known as salmon people, began importing Alaskan salmon for their annual salmon festival, traditionally held to celebrate the first return of the fall Chinook salmon to the Klamath River. They say the dams had a severe impact on water temperature and quality. Growth of toxic algae behind 2 of the dams resulted in health warnings against water contact. They say all of those years seeing our rivers damaged like that, I remember as a kid, we'd have other people from nearby tribes making fun of our rivers. Oh, your river is dirty. Bullying, I guess that could be considered because their rivers were dirty. For us, the dams were a monument to the people who conquered us. Right now, they're celebrating that they got this river back, and now they still have hard work of completing a lot more restoration. So stay tuned, people.